Hey, dear saints, I hope today finds you all well in the life of the church. I'm sorry I can't be with you this morning as we gather for worship, but I have some family commitments that I'm excited about and I get to participate in while you guys are there. So I hope everything goes beautifully and worshipfully, and I know that you're going to have a great time in communion with each other and with God. But today's a really important day in the life of the church. Today we're continuing on our theme of telling the story. Last week we talked about our past as a congregation, and today we're going to be asking a different question. We're going to be asking, who are we as a congregation? And in fact, we're asking each of you that question this morning too. Again, there's a place in your bulletin today where the question is posed, who are we as a congregation? And there's some lines in there to provide an answer. And we would like to encourage you to answer that question for us this morning. And when you finish your answer, you can place it in the offering plate when it comes around later in the service. Or if you don't feel like you have enough time to answer the question, email it to the church office later on, and we'll take those as well. We're going to do something very unique and important and beautiful with these answers later on. So it's part of the reason that we're doing this. But before you answer the question, I do have a little bit of clarification that I want to add in so you know better how to answer the question, who are we as a congregation? You could answer as generally as possible. You could say, we are a congregation serving Jesus Christ together in the world. And everybody could smile and nod and say, you know what? That's a great answer. That's right. Because it is right. But what that doesn't say is who we are uniquely as a congregation. I want you to think deeper than that. I want you to think about our gifts and our talents as a church, our ministries that we're involved in. How are we different than the Methodist church in town or another church somewhere else? What sets us apart? That needs to be a part of your answer too. Now don't worry, there's no test later on. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a completely subjective thing. So don't worry about that in any way. And there's another part as well. Another little caveat to answering the question too. Along with being specific, we would like you to include what you think your role is in the life of the congregation. In other words, in order to answer who we are as a church, we have to know how each of us plays a role in the life of the church. Who are we individually in the life of the congregation? What's our role? So I want you to include a little part about that in your answer as well. And you'll find out later on what these answers are going to do and what kind of creative, wonderful things we're going to do with them. But I want to encourage you to answer that question. Today we read a scripture reading from Genesis about Abram. Abram is afraid. He's having a little bit of an identity crisis right here in life, right? Can you see that? And what I mean by that is, in this day and age, you're ensured a future by the children that you have, especially male children that will carry on the family name and inherit the property as life goes on. And Abram doesn't have any kids. He's afraid about it, doesn't know what to do about it. He's having an identity crisis. Who am I if I don't have these kids? And where do I go from here? And God hears Abram's cry, right? And he comes to him and tells him, Abram, you're going to have as many children as there are stars in the sky, as many descendants as there are stars. Wonderful. We don't really get Abram's reaction except that he is grateful for what God's done and what God is telling him, and that he's going to trust God's promise. Now, friends, I want to be frank with you here. I don't think the point of the story is that God will give us anything that we want, or that the point of the story is that God gave Abraham what Abraham wanted in the story. I don't think that's the point of this story at all. Even though maybe we have heard it that way before. I think the point of the story is to show that having faith in God and in God's promises shapes our identity as Christians. That faith and trust in God shapes who we are as people in the world today. Who we are as a congregation today is shaped by our past experiences, both as a congregation and as individuals, but also by who we know God to be and what God promises us in the future. I'm probably not going to shock any of you by telling you that our congregation today is a lot different than it was even when I first came here 6 years ago. Our membership has changed quite a bit. Our ministries have changed as well. Things are moving and shifting and changing in the life of our church. And lots of us have different ideas about what being church is all about. And we have different ideas of how we're supposed to be church in the world. And we even have different ideas on who we are as a congregation and how we are answering our call from God. We all have different ideas about the ways to do things, ways to approach worship, to approach mission, to approach evangelism in the community in which we live in, ways to be faithful to our call, ways to use our church property to best fulfill our goals and our mission as a congregation. This year, in ministry, we're going to do some faithful listening together. We're going to listen to each other's stories. We're going to share our stories and our experiences. We're going to share who we think we are as a church. And we're going to listen. And we're going to read Scripture. And we're going to pray with and for one another. We're going to talk about what it means to be the church of Jesus Christ. And we're going to do this in many different ways and throughout all of our ministries and throughout worship and through Christian education. And in all our different aspects of worship, we're going to ask these questions about who we are. And so today, we're going to ponder that question together. Today, we're going to ask that question as a group. Who are we as a congregation? And we're going to hear from people from different ministries in our church, from our elders in the life of the congregation. And for that, I'm going to turn over our broadcast to Polly Presbyterian, who is standing by in the broadcast studio. Polly, take it away.